How many times have you referenced Twilight since we started recording?
An embarrassing amount. I think I've exposed something about myself I didn't mean to. But we've got vampire zombie armies.
Welcome to the KDrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive. And we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim. Welcome back to the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim. It is season 4. Mid-season finale. Because we will be continuing on with the new release of GyeongSeong Creature Season 2.
I'm so
baby.
excited.
Yes.
The pictures for it look fantastic.
Yes.
Like,
Have you seen the trailer yet?
no.
We're going to watch the trailer later.
Yes, we are. And I think I just didn't watch the trailer because, I just need to finish this with notes.
That was my motivation to get through this, was I'm not going to watch anything about the upcoming season. One, because I wanted to see this show through the lens that we saw it when we first watched it.
Right.
Without being influenced by new information. And then once I finished all my notes, I was like, okay, I'm watching it. And I did.
Is it so good?
We'll just watch it here. That will be our motivation to really nail this episode.
Yes.
But yes, we will be reviewing season 2. It will be releasing simultaneously with our review of My Idea's Gangnam Beauty. So look forward to it.
Woohoo.
Check it out.
So excited.
All right.
All the work.
Yeah, well, Well, let's just dive right into it. We're going to forego any kind of recap because we're just ready to get at it. Episode 10. It is called Rture or Tear.
I don't know. That was actually going to be my question for you, is which one do you think
That
it
was
is?
my question, too. I think it's ambiguous on purpose.
Yeah, because it can be both.
Yeah. I do think it's ambiguous on purpose. But it is called Between the End and Another Beginning. Would you like to kick us off?
All right. All we see is black when this episode begins, and we just hear CheaOk speaking. Her whole life she dreamt of having an ordinary life, a normal life, and just to be with the one that she loved, and to have the kind of life that everybody else dreams of. And as she's talking about this, we begin to see the montage of going into the hospital, finding the creature, escaping, and then the beginning of a romance. And she wakes up in a chair, and Lady Maeda is looking at her and telling her that she is foolish to have any dreams, and it's only going to bring her suffering. When CheaOk asks why she is holding her, Maeda tells her that she just wanted to see what Seishin's daughter looked like. Which, obviously, to CheaOk is going, how do you know my mom? That's a lot to take in. But then we cut to Mr. Gu bringing back Pomo, and he has come to tell them that he knows where CheaOk has been taken. And Mrs. Nawal ends up just scolding him and yelling at him for his betrayal. And I loved that Mr. Gu in this moment goes, I already told him that. I already talked with him about that. Mm-hmm. Kind of giving him the chance to make amends. Pomo tells them that Maeda had promised him that TaeSang would be protected, and it was only for his safety. And so TaeSang asks him to tell him where CheaOk is being held. We then cut to Kato and his being informed that he now has a visitor, and it is CheaOk. Maeda had sent her to him. And below, Seishin is going crazy. Mm-hmm. We see TaeSang handing the keys over to Mrs. Nawal and telling her to sell the pawn shop if he doesn't return. And then we see him packing a bag full of dynamite and being told that between the two, if it's a short fuse, it has 5 minutes, and the long fuse has 8 minutes before it will blast. And the radius is about 6 meters. It won't take the building down, but it will create a lot of damage. And simultaneously, we see him walking away, and Nawal and the group of rebels telling him good luck, and Nawal saying, I'm going to hold on to these until you're back. Ugh.
Two different well wishes.
Mm-hmm.
One is, I hope you're successful, basically in your suicide mission, and the other, please come back to us.
You will come home.
Yeah, or else I will kill you.
Mm-hmm. I will make sure that you come home.
But TaeSang climbs into a rickshaw while Juntaek wanders off on a mission of his own with a briefcase full of dynamite in hand. CheaOk learns that she will be reunited with both her mother and father as part of Kato's experiment, while Seishin becomes increasingly more agitated below. But we see the rickshaw that TaeSang had climbed into roll up to the gate at OnSeong with neither rider nor driver to be seen. In the prison, Kato asks CheaOk how can she look at him with those eyes in spite of the fact that everyone knows they won't win. And she says, I have a question for you too. How are you all so unabashedly proud? You violated my mother. You trampled on my family's happiness. Even after killing so many innocent people, how can you be so shameless? Kato tells her the magnitude of his achievements are far too great to discuss with the likes of a lowly Korean. Do you think you can hide your people's inferiority complex?
Oh, that was so good.
He strikes her, and the creature goes ballistic, breaking out. Simultaneously, the rickshaw has exploded, blowing a hole into the gate.
As the guards are dealing with this now blown up situation, TaeSang jumps the wall to run inside. And inside, Seishin is going crazy. She is killing men left and right, throwing them, and we just see CheaOk looking at her mom and just softly ask for her help. Kato decides to use this as an opportunity to hold her at gunpoint and hold Seishin back, at the threat of her daughter's life. More soldiers arrive, and they are ordered to shoot her down. We then cut to Sachimoto packing up drawings, and one of the soldiers with him asking him if he is ready to go back to Japan, and if his anatomy book is going to be published now. Sachimoto just sort of is not really wanting to be part of this conversation, just goes, I think so, and picks up the picture that he had drawn of Seishin. The guard asks him if that was his Korean girlfriend and tells him that she's really pretty. But Sachimoto replies, telling him that this was Seishin from before. And this is when Sachimoto learns that she had had a husband and a daughter, and the husband had come back to request to see his wife.
This revelation is kind of like, there's definitely a romantic interest there. Because he was shocked by this. He wasn't just... He was very taken aback by the fact that he said his husband...
Unexpected news.
Had returned and that she had a daughter. He might have already known about CheaOk, but I don't think he knew... I don't remember. But anyway, I don't know that I caught that the first time around. And obviously he had an infatuation with her, but I couldn't tell if it was just born out of the guilt of what had transpired in the hospital or if there was something more. But I think there's definitely something more there.
We see JungWon is in the air vents, and he stops to find a room with soldiers that are moving containers of gasoline. We see TaeSang has also come down into the air vents, and he is starting to look at his supply of dynamite and figure out a plan, and turns to point a gun at a man who's also aiming at him, and they both realize that it is JungWon and TaeSang. They have found each other. Kato has escaped with CheaOk, and he orders the men to open every single canister of nitrogen to prevent Seishin from reaching that next level. They hear a noise, and the men are sent off, and he drags CheaOk off with him. At the same time, JungWon has learned that CheaOk has been arrested and brought back to the hospital, and TaeSang reaches inside his jacket and pulls out the envelope filled with tickets and telling him to get on the ship with CheaOk the next day, and he's going to carry out the plan. The men down below are trying to release nitrogen to stop the creature, and Sachimoto comes out of his room and watches all of these soldiers just run by. Kato is stopped with a report that at the same time JungWon and TaeSang get to overhear. TaeSang gets up to go and set the dynamite when JungWon takes the bag from him and tells him that he wants him to get CheaOk out. As TaeSang tries to fight him for it, JungWon just refuses and tells him, for the first time in 10 years, I can see a future, and it's of you and my daughter. And I want to fulfill the honor of being a husband to my wife.
Kato is prepared to shut down the hospital, but states he must retrieve, quote, something from his office, which we know to be the remaining Najin. The nitrogen is proved ineffective, and Seishin is moving upward. CheaOk makes a play for her freedom, which seemingly fails until TaeSang starts to shoot his way through their defenses. Kato's begun to load the Najin and anthrax into a carrying case, narrowly escaping the clutches of Seishin. JungWon has lit the fuses on the dynamite, pausing to gaze at his pendant. As the creature pursues Kato, he hears MyeongJa whimpering in a holding cell, complaining that her stomach hurts badly, and you can see the wheels begin to spin in his brain. TaeSang and CheaOk win their struggle, briefly embracing before moving further up into the hospital. JungWon starts to beat rhythmically against the wall, calling for Seishin with a song. He sings of a boatman that has not heard from his lover since she left, and Seishin creeps around the corner. She pauses before the pendant hanging from the ceiling, and JungWon steps out to meet his lover, weaponless and tears in his eyes. He calls her SeongSim and says, "It's time for us to leave here together." And the dynamite detonates, consuming the pair of lovers in fire.
That was one of the most heartbreakingly beautiful scenes, especially with the slow-mo of the explosion and just the standing there, like...
And the silence.
Because, yeah, there was no sound.
No.
And then I don't think I noticed that the first even couple times I've watched it. And to go back and watch it again this time, I was like, oh, that is just a beautiful scene. It horrible and heartbreaking, but it was just like, even just with cinematography, that was
and he's
so good.
Even said that he was someone who's stuck in the past, but that he sees a way forward through his daughter, and that's kind of parenthood in a nutshell. Like, there comes a point where your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations are no longer... it's not your time for those things anymore. Like, it's your job to be a springboard for your children, and I think that's what he was doing. In a very sort of dark turn of events, but you would know that the mother in her sound mind would be on board with the plan.
Oh, absolutely.
But clearly she's not well. So he made an executive decision for the two of them. But, yeah, anyway. It was a very poetic scene. But the concussion from the dynamite knocks over TaeSang and CheaOk, and they are battered but alive. But CheaOk realizes that her mother and father are both gone, and she fights to return to the basement. TaeSang tells her that it was her father's last request to get her to safety and to be with his wife. CheaOk seems to be emptied of her resolve as she begins to weep bitterly on the floor of the hospital.
Sachimoto actually finds them, and we just get to see a very, very short scene of him just walking in and realizing that they are there. But Lady Maeda is informed that there was an explosion at the hospital, and at the same time, the rebels have run into the Moonlight Bar saying that there has been an explosion, and soon the whole town knows.
I think it's very interesting, though, how there's like a buzz, right? That's how it works, is there's the excitement of something's happened. But everyone that knows what just transpired, or who is privy to the knowledge of where TaeSang had gone, is very stoic about it, very somber.
Yeah.
Because to them, it's not, oh, that Japanese hospital exploded, it's their friend is dead.
Yeah.
So.
And the hope of maybe he made it out. But we know that it's likely that he didn't.
Yeah, I don't know that they had hope yet.
That's fair. That's fair.
Hope comes later.
Hope comes later. Soldiers are sent into the area, and we see up that same air shaft that they had used so many times to come in and out of that hospital. Something or someone has crawled out, and there's a massive trail of blood. Sachimoto has brought TaeSang and CheaOk out and tells them that he has found an escape route for them to, get out while the chaos is happening. TaeSang thanks him and tells him it's time for him to go because otherwise he will get killed, and Sachimoto apologizes to CheaOk for his part in what had happened and that he should have told her, but it was his own cowardice. TaeSang lets him know that they understand and they make their escape. At the same time, we learn that it is Seishin who had made her way out of the building and from the top watches her daughter escape. The two sit in silence as TaeSang is driving them out, and he just offers her hand and she holds it. At the House of Golden Treasure, a knock is made at the door, and a newspaper has been delivered to them on behalf of Master Wang. Miss Nawal realizes the news and packs a suitcase full of valuables. It is unknown how they're going to get this suitcase until Bomo steps up and offers his assistant and wants to have a chance to prove that he is worthy of their trust. He takes off, and unknowingly, Maeda's men are watching and follow him. Master Wang and TaeSang are having a conversation where he thanks him and tells him to go to House of Golden Treasure for his final payment. As TaeSang makes his way back, he sees a wanted poster of CheaOk calling her a violent killer. He tells her that they need to leave, and instead she asks if they can just end things there because she will go on alone. It is her fault, and she's the one on the run, and it isn't fair to drag him alongside. TaeSang asks her if she doesn't like him anymore, and after her assurance that that isn't the case, he tells her it's a relief, and that the man standing before her now, who had barely escaped death before, has a second chance, and no matter what, he is sticking with her.
I love that his reasoning, though, is that I've already died once. The reason I'm standing here is because your father granted me a bonus life to protect you, to stay by your side. I can't live without you, and you already know that. Kind of like, don't let your dad's sacrifice be for nothing, you schmuck. We're going together. Shut up and get in the car.
that Mean Girls reference. Get in, loser. We're going shopping.
But as one of the Japanese military officers exits the building, he realizes that the fire brigade's efforts, and this is at the hospital, have grown very quiet. And that's because they've all been obliterated by the creature, who is now at large in the city. A Japanese policeman is pedaling down the street when Seishin comes barreling past, not even looking at him, but rather trying to find her daughter. Bomo is riding through the woods on his bicycle to meet TaeSang when he realizes he's being followed by a car, and he pauses to hide in the trees as the car rolls past him, headlights off. But Bomo returns to the road. However, a second car emerges from behind him, giving chase. Bomo arrives at the dock with a suitcase, explaining he was late because he was being followed, when an envoy of cars pulls up to the trio and they're surrounded by masked men in black. CheaOk draws her knife as Lady Maeda steps out from one of the vehicles. She tells Bomo he did a good job, sending him into a panic as he promises TaeSang that he did not betray him this time. TaeSang simply tells him to just go hide. The Lady Maeda scolds TaeSang for burning the hospital down and asks what his plan is now that he's trying to run away with CheaOk. She says, I thought of you as a friend once. I guess I'll lose a friend now. Come to think of it, I lost a friend like this in the past once, because of that girl's mother. Now I ask both of you to die here. Goodbye. And she climbs into her car and drives away.
She's a savage, ruthless human being.
Yes.
As we have established already, but... Yikes, girl.
She didn't get hugged enough as a child.
Clearly.
Yeah.
We then watch this truly epic fight scene of the two putting up their best efforts, surrounded by a group of very skilled men. During part of it, TaeSang ends up getting stabbed, and as he points the gun that he has at his attacker, he instead moves and shoots the man that is going for CheaOk. At the same time, Seishin is galloping towards her daughter, trying to get there faster. Despite their best efforts, CheaOk and TaeSang are very outnumbered, injured, and unable to move as two other men run towards them. As they cower, as they're waiting for the attack that has happened, when the men jump, Seishin impales them with her arms and just begins to annihilate the men. Seeing this chance to escape, TaeSang grabs CheaOk and they run for it. While Seishin is fighting off this group of men. One of her arms actually gets ripped off in the process, but she takes care of all of the men. As CheaOk and TaeSang are running, CheaOk collapses, and Seishin runs to her thinking that she is being attacked herself. As she reaches forward to try and help her daughter, CheaOk pushes TaeSang out of the way and begs her mom to stop because he is someone that she loves so much. We realize in this moment that CheaOk has been impaled by one of her mother's arms, and TaeSang just watches in shock as her mom pulls back and CheaOk falls to the ground, where TaeSang grabs her and begs her to be okay, because she had promised them that they would be together. She instead caresses his face and says, "Master Jung, look, the cherry blossoms have already lost their flowers." And her hand falls limp, and he begins to sob, begging her to stay, even though he knows that she has already died.
This is such a cruel, cruel twist of fate. But TaeSang is once again alone in the world, but only now does he feel that he's actually lost everything. And he begins to weep bitterly over CheaOk's body as Seishin and Bomo watch. As TaeSang continues to cry, we see the sun begin to peek over the horizon. And it kind of harkens back to the conversation they had up on the balcony of how people just hold their breath trying to make it through the night. I felt like that was calling back that moment that they had where it was just peaceful. And once again, I think in this moment it is peaceful, but it's overshadowed by the fact that CheaOk is dead. But we see the aftermath of the night through the lens of a black and white reel. As one of the officers calls out for Kato running through the hospital, he makes his way down to the holding cells where MyeongJa was being held. Kato is holding her newly born child while MyeongJa's mutilated body lay beside him. He watches the child as he did his other creation, the creature Seishin, with the wonder of a father. But this child contains a Najin, opening one eye to glance at her new, quote, dad.
And he asks, isn't she beautiful?
And that's when the baby looks at him with one eye. It was very unsettling.
Very, very weird and creepy.
It was very creepy. But Lady Maeda is met by Juntaek at her husband's funeral, who presents her with an envelope from a mutual friend, the man she had just ordered to be killed the night before. She begins to look uneasy, unwinding the envelope, which reads, "Farewell," and her gaze turns to where Juntaek just exited the building. She starts to notice the flower arrangements being monitored by Mr. Gu, who also exits the room with some friends. The sentiments read, "From Master Jung TaeSang at the House of Golden Treasure. From Akiko, courtesan of Spring Moon Hall. From Private Choi Young-gon of Disease Control Platoon. From Yoon JungWon Sleuth. From Yoon CheaOk Sleuth. From Choi SeongSim."
This sends Maeda into a bit of a panic, realizing that something is wrong, but it also makes her very angry. She gets up to leave, and as she's walking down the aisle to leave the building, the room explodes. Afterwards, TaeSang and Juntaek are getting that drink that they had promised, and Juntaek tells TaeSang that he was a patriot after all, and it was all thanks to his efforts. TaeSang instead just thanks him for the drink and leaves, but as he gets up to leave, some men come up to him and call him Comrade Jung and congratulate him for all of his help because he is a true patriot. TaeSang asks him if he needs money because if he has any valuable items to pawn off, to swing by his shop and he will give him a good price. He then turns to them and says, "Don't call me Comrade Jung, I am Master Jung of the House of Golden Treasure." As he leaves, Juntaek just smiles and thinks back to their conversation from before TaeSang had gone into the hospital, and Juntaek is telling him that he confessed to everyone, he had given everyone up. And all TaeSang's response was, "We'll grab a drink and talk when I'm back." As TaeSang is walking home through the streets, there seems just to be a lighter air. People are talking, life is going on as normal. And he gets home and looks at his little family and asks if they should go inside because it's getting cold. As he goes to shut the door, he notices something out the corner of his eye, but he can't place it, and instead sits on the steps and remembers that the cherry blossoms had fallen and that spring that year had gone by fast. It is mentioned that that August of that same year, everything that they had lost, they had reclaimed.
And with a sad smile, we fade to black. We hear "Hooray for the Independence of Korea" being chanted, and open again to Kato entering a room addressing a badly burned Lady Maeda. He announces OnSeong Hospital is closing and everyone will return to Japan. He tells her to make a decision, placing a glass of water on the table, inviting her to decide whether she will return to Japan or continue to explore the possibilities within their research. He leaves her room, and we see Maeda turn her gaze to the MyeongJa teacup. We hear TaeSang say, "As for me, I'm still waiting on things I've dreamed of," and we see CheaOk and Seishin falling into the ocean. Seishin embraces her daughter, but in her human form, calling to her in their last moments. As her human hand pulls away, we see the tree-like structures envelop CheaOk, and a Najin emerges from Seishin, entering CheaOk's mouth. But rather than sinister and deadly, we see a mother's final act of love. And Seishin falls to the bottom of the ocean. We close as CheaOk's eyes snap open. We have a postlude. We see what appears to be real footage of the passage of time from post-war Korea to now, which includes scenes from the real-world 2020 virus, to North Korea launching and testing nuclear weapons, all on a small TV overlooking modern-day Seoul. We see a man with an interesting scar on his neck open a window and stare at the sunrise. His friend calls to him, "HoJae, let's go," and we see that the man shares the face of our beloved Jang Tae-sung. End episode.
End season 1.
End season 1. And season 4 of our show.
What is happening?
A lot.
So much.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. This is an intense, amazing show for being fantasy and having so much historical.
Rooted in reality.
Yeah, reality that so much inspiration was drawn from. Mm-hmm. But even the acting. I think the first time we watched it through, because we finished it within a week of each other, I had said with episode 10 of Park Seo-joon, his acting...
It was too real.
I
hated it. In the best way.
Yes. Of him... I mean, we obviously love him very much and big fan of pretty much everything that he's in. But especially just the raw emotion. And episode 1, he didn't really have emotion. It was, you know what, I just do what I have to do to get by. Deny. Right. And to end it and being nothing but emotion. So he has so much growth. But then even CheaOk, I think we mentioned that in episode 1 too, of what you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. But here she is sacrificing herself.
Well, and I also think on the other side of Taesang's arc is someone who went from strictly survival for the sake of survival, or for the sake of his mother's last wish, realizes that sometimes survival is empty, that there are moments when there is cowardice in that, and he's seen that. And not for his lack of trying. I mean, he laid down his life many, many times to try to, you know, come to the aid of his friends and his comrades. But he's kind of living in his own quiet mourning as he watches everyone else sort of celebrate the victory. He's still kind of living in this loss.
Yeah, the grief.
And even though he survived, I don't know that it's really a win for him, which I kind of thought was interesting. But yeah, he goes from being the frivolous one to everyone else seeming like the frivolous ones because he's been through this ordeal. On the other, I wanted to bring this up during the recap, but I kind of forgot. But Lady Maeda has the option in her almost final moments to do something for the other people in the room, and that would be to alert them to the fact that it's about to explode. But her choice in that moment is to not create a panic so that she has a straight shot to the door.
Self-preservation.
Interesting. She is a cockroach.
She is...
in every sense of the word.
Greedy and
also will not die. She lived through that nuclear blast.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show her character not being born out of a place of conviction, but a place of being self-serving and being cowardly.
Yeah.
At the end of it, as much of a bravado as she tried to put on,
when
it came down to the wire, she was like, I can't die.
Well, she's all about manipulation.
Yeah.
And
she's very good at it.
She's very good at it, but also when TaeSang finally stands up to her and was like, it is because of you that this person broke, that these things have happened. And I think that's the first time when you see her crack a little bit of, I can't manipulate my way out of this.
And he's not intimidated by her either.
Right. Not anymore.
And he has no desire to get anything from her like the doctors did at the hospital. He has no fear of dying. He has a little bit too much influence for that, so she can't hold that over him. And he's basically said, you touch my people, I will come for you directly. So she can't even hold that over him anymore.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? I have a lot, but I don't know.
You and I sort of talked about this before tonight. By that, I mean like earlier today, of looking into the history.
Yes.
I know we're not a history podcast. I will keep it as short as I possibly can, just because it is also very horrifying.
It is.
And
I
awful.
think the true horror, the thing that and I've told you this is what I struggled with this show, was that the fact that so much of it is rooted in truth is what makes scenes like Mr. Goo's situation or Miss Nawal's situation or Taesang's mother's situation so difficult. I do not like watching these types of shows.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person who doesn't need a visual to accompany for you to feel the weight of those things, you know?
Yeah.
And it's almost too much for me to see those things. But yeah, we had actually independently done this research. Mine was actually back in February when we first started to record this.
Mine was today.
Yours was today. So it's kind of funny how...
just actually looking into it. I love history. That was one of my favorite subjects, all the way through college. And my dad is a big World War II. That is his Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And it's World War II. So there's a lot of stuff that I just kind of...
You gravitate towards.
And I will try to keep this as PG-13 as possible, but know that this is so much more intense and severe than anything I'm saying. And I even told Kim this earlier. I was like, there were things that I was reading that made my stomach churn. And as a true crime person or somebody who's gravitates towards, just information like this, that's saying a lot. If I'm going this, I felt sick reading this. So I don't have near that kind of information, but I'll keep it super brief. So this was based off of the true incidents that happened at Unit 731. And it was a covert Japanese military unit that conducted biological and chemical warfare. And it was established in 1935 in Harbin, China, and was also known as the Kamo Detachment and the Ishii Unit. And I could be completely butchering all of those names, which I probably am. I'm so sorry. So it was originally intended to be an agency that promoted public health under the leadership of Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii. And what they wanted to do was find ways for the human body to withstand hunger, thirst, and disease. And originally it was experiments that were conducted on volunteers who had signed consent waivers and gave their permission for some of this stuff to happen. And then as the war went on, things changed.
Oh boy, did they.
Oh boy, did they. So there was the 1925 Geneva Convention that had banned the use of chemical and biological warfare. But regardless, the Japanese wanted to be prepared, and they began to use their prisoners of war as test subjects. They were mostly Chinese and Russian, but there were also Korean and Mongolian people who were experimented on. It was a place of torture, but according to the Japanese at that time, it was a necessity in order for them to win the war. There were at least 3,000 men, women, and children that were subjected to this torture, and they were referred to as marutas, or logs. And towards the end of the war, most of the documents ended up being burned, so there's not actually a lot of evidence on what took place and what the true number of people who were there and subjected to the torture of Unit 731. It is speculated between 10,000 and 12,000 prisoners died due to the experiments that were going on there. Some of the, quote, testing that took place was frostbite, the vivisection of conscious prisoners, weapon testing, venereal disease testing, the test of human limits, rape, and forced pregnancy. And it was only when it became clear that the Japanese were going to lose that most of the evidence was lost or destroyed. And in August 1945 is when Unit 731 was officially terminated. But because of the secrecy behind it and the ones who did know about it, and they didn't, make any of that knowledge public, there was no admission of its existence until 1988 by the Japanese government. And it was the Chinese government who began to spread the awareness of the atrocities that were committed there by establishing a museum in 1982 at that location, which that's... Whew. And it's known as the Auschwitz of that area. I don't remember the book title. There was a book title about that. Mm-hmm. But not one scientist, official, or person who took part in the operation of 731 was ever charged or punished. And even General Douglas MacArthur decided not to pursue action, deeming the trade of the information that they learned to be more important than the hindrance of people having the ability to receive the medical information, therefore resulting in no justice ever being served. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was my very, very brief, not explicit as possible.
I mean, to some of the other things that, that I had read, this place employed 3,000 people. Mm-hmm. Employed 3,000 people. So you have to understand,
how large.
The breadth of this organization. It was considered a teaching hospital.
Yeah.
They would send it had to be approved, the way that the medical system worked in Japan at that time and still works today is promotions happen by sucking up to your superiors. That is it. It has nothing to do with your merit. It has nothing to do with other than these people say you can move up. Mm-hmm. And so the teachers would say this person can move up. They would send these medical personnel to learn things on conscious patients mm-hmm. in some of the ways that you had referenced, which we don't go into detail about. If you want to read about that, be my guest.
Right. There are many, many resources that you can look this information up on.
But while this is happening to these prisoners, they were considered the creme de la creme of facilities to work at. They had the best food, the best facilities, the most beautiful offices. Mm-hmm. It was supposedly a beautiful place to be that just housed these horrors in the background that nobody knew about because it was all under the guise of this research facility where nothing bad happened. But yeah, their budget was over $80 million a year, mm-hmm. which is insane.
Yeah.
And half of that went toward their salaries. So
that's a problem. In case you're wondering.
It's amazing to me what they've got away with during the mm-hmm. war and how we don't hold that in the same criticism as we do what was happening in Germany at the time.
Yeah.
It is amazing to me how that is completely overlooked. And I know that a lot of that is due to just time constraints in the teaching system, and maybe even some teachers aren't even aware of what's happening there, but it should be held in the same severity and the same critical eye as what was happening over in Europe, because those two were in cahoots with each other for a reason.
Right. They were both
there is a
equally
reason
horrendous.
That people who highly discriminate based upon your bloodline and your appearance were like, oh, we'll overlook that for the sake of a camaraderie here. So I just, it's frustrating,
maddening.
Yeah. So, and then I mean, you look into the whole comfort women thing. That's a whole other road you can go down. That's another really horrible. Read your history books, and not just the ones that they give you at school. Read educational texts, go online, find things that are on JSTOR, find things that are peer-reviewed and peer-approved. Stay off Facebook, stay off Google. Like, those aren't the places to look for it.
Find things that were printed in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit more accurate.
Those are the kinds of things we have to watch out for. This is why we read history. This is why we allow stories like GyeongSeong Creature to be made into entertainment, because they help bring awareness.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like a violence, like we said before, not a violence for violence sake type of show. It was these are the horrors. Don't let it happen again. Yeah. So yeah. Because
those who fail to learn their history are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
And we don't need that.
And just as Sachimoto said, like, I was just as guilty. I am not
as a bystander.
What was the word I used? Absconded? Is that the right word?
I don't know.
But basically, I bear the guilt by allowing it. I did not perform the act, but I bear the guilt by allowing it. So, anyway, should we get into our season 2 predictions?
I don't even know what to have for predictions, because I haven't seen the trailer, so I have even less.
Half of my prediction is from not seeing the trailer.
Okay.
So let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Questions before I watched the trailer. Make them bigger because I'm blind. Is HoJae TaeSang, or do they just share a face?
I don't know. That scar on the back of his neck?
Is he a reincarnation?
I don't know, because you know how, like, they can take on the weight of all of the years? If that was, say the Najin actually is part of him. You're still going to take on the weight. Even if you look the same, like, your eyes will be older. Like,
yeah.
I think it's a different person.
You think it's a different person?
I think it's a different person.
Because he looked youthful.
He looked youthful, and it looked like more of a curiosity. Kind of was like more the impression that I got, rather than, hey, I've lived through this really horrible thing and I'm still alive.
Yeah. I personally thought reincarnation, or just same face, different person.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more like that.
Yeah. What has happened to CheaOk?
I don't know. I think she's going to have the ability to live a very long time, because Kato had said something about regeneration. So I'm wondering...
Yeah, that's true. When Akiko was going crazy in the street, yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering if either she has had the ability to continue, like, her body continually regenerate.
Sure.
I don't want to be Doctor Who now.
New faces.
New faces.
New face.
So either she figured out how to control it.
Okay.
Or I don't know, because there's still Kato, and if he's doing crazy things, what if he ended up hunting her down?
True. Okay. You mean like weaponized her?
Yeah, either weaponized her or like she also went out of control, kind of like MyeongJa did.
Yeah. Okay. Does HoJae have a scar on his neck because he's been tested on? Or is he a clone of TaeSang with Najin traits?
I'm going to say neither. I don't think it's either.
You don't think it's either?
I think either.
You don't think they like stole his blood and then made a copy of him, like blended him with the Najin and made him into a...
No.
No.
I don't think so. Why do you?
That's what I thought. Why else would we care about the scar? They really focused on that
They did
scar.
focus on the scar, and I'm wondering if there's, like, maybe he had to have surgery at some point.
Okay.
And then that becomes a key player
Down the road. Okay. Surgery, like...
car accident, or, like, I mean, just had to have neck surgery or back surgery. Because we don't know how big that scar actually is.
True, his shirt kind of obscures
it. It could be his entire back.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Did Lady Maeda take the Najin offering?
I feel like she's somebody who would, because she doesn't like the situation that she's in now, but also she's very, she doesn't like giving control.
I don't think that the purist in her would want to hand over
that part of her. Right.
But at the same time, like you said, she's, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Right. She's wheelchair bound and covered in burns.
Yeah.
If this can provide regeneration.
And also maybe facing disciplinary action if she returns to Japan, having blown up a hospital and killed her husband.
And many others.
Many others. Not that they care because they weren't Japanese people, but what happened to Kato?
He got off scot-free.
He kind of did. That's how they kind of made it out.
Yeah, he got no punishment.
Yeah. Last question. Will the new season take place entirely in modern-day Korea, and will it contain most of the same cast?
I think most of it will be modern-day Korea, and I think there'll be some flashbacks to it of maybe they discovered that these things were going on and happened to stumble across it, like in a research way or cop way. Sleuth way, yeah. So I think there might be like flashbacks, but I don't think it's going to be because of...
You think it'll primarily be just...
Yeah, and I think it's going to be different people.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it's... I mean...
Like, we don't bring Nawal and...
Yeah, I don't think so.
And all of these guys into the future with us.
I don't think so.
I mean, it wouldn't really make sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, I think it's just going to be something... I think it's going to be different, but have, like, the same faces.
Yes.
Whether it maybe TaeSang ended up getting married and had kids, and maybe that's his great-great-great-grandson.
Oh, like a descendant. Okay.
A descendant. Like,
Descendants
maybe that could be a... We need to watch that. So good.
Okay. I like it. We're going to pause. You're going to watch the trailer with me, and then we're going to come back with new predictions.
Okay. Okay, I think I did pretty good with those questions.
You did. You did a great job with those questions.
That
was exciting. Okay, here are my questions after I watched the trailer.
Okay. Oh.
We have confirmed Han So-hee, Park So-joon, Claudia Kim, who is Lady Maeda.
Yes.
Kim Hae-suk, who is Nawal. Wee Ha-jun, Juntaek. And Cho Han-chul, who is JungWon, as part of our leading cast for season 2.
That's amazing.
It is Modern Day Seoul 2024. So, she did not die. How is she alive?
The Najin.
Obviously.
Hello.
I love the fact that she says, spring seems to have passed quickly, but my winter has not ended yet. And why are these things happening again? So it's obviously happening on a larger scale, but he did not die. How is he alive?
Right.
So he appears to have cut the Najin out of his neck.
But when did he take the Najin?
Forgotten everything that happened, but he gets his memory back.
Right, but when did he have the Najin, that opportunity?
What if he ran into CheaOk in the past?
Ooh.
Because it seems like there is this whole structure to it now.
Right.
Like there is... Okay, we've got vampire zombie armies now.
True.
So somewhere, somehow... I mean, it was like volunteers coming forward at that point. Because you saw them, they were in white.
Right.
They were basically informed what was going to happen. And then they were test subjects to see who's going to make it, who's not going to. So...
Right.
It could be that he enlisted to be with CheaOk because she was captured. Maybe they harvested Najin from her. He tried to save her, got captured, and, you know.
Yeah, or tried to see if it was just a way to find her. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe they were harvesting from her,
Mm-hmm.
and he went in to save her because he found out.
Except that there were still extra Najin because Kato had them.
True.
Because there was also the baby.
Oh, the baby. Is the baby the dude who's running it? Because we don't know if it's girl guy.
We don't
know that. Or it could be the creepy dude who is young and...
Said you're one of us.
Yeah. Which was a good line, by the way. So she's been part of that army. Yeah.
Maybe it took over.
Could be, for a
time. They
time.
found a way to weaponize the Najin, and maybe it's more of a... like a hive mind.
Okay, yeah.
And so to break out of the hive mind, like the overall, like they're still independent enough to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's enough of a hive mentality
that
the humanity part has to break.
It's very Twilight Eclipse, where Jacob leaves the pack.
I mean,
I'm just kidding.
How many times have you referenced Twilight since we started recording?
An embarrassing amount. I think I've exposed something about myself I didn't mean to. But we've got vampire zombie armies. It looks like they perfected the Najin symbiosis and have created armies that are both human in appearance and in control of their abilities, which I thought was interesting because we never saw
any survival of it.
Well, we did, but what we saw with the Najin, like with Akiko, was like the brute strength and the zombie brain-eating tendencies. But CheaOk had tentacles, but she still maintained a human appearance. Did you see that?
Yes, but also that Najin came from her mom. So that Najin already had the anthrax
infused into it.
So that could be part of it as well.
But the baby didn't.
Yeah, but she didn't need that if she had the Najin from her mom.
But I'm saying if they were harvesting it from Akiko, from the baby, there was no anthrax mixed into that. Which brings me back to my original theory that they're harvesting it from CheaOk, which is why she was, quote, one of them. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, you know me and my theories. I go
Kim's
out of
unhinged theories.
I get unhinged real quick. But TaeSang / HoJae seems to have formerly been one of them, but then CheaOk went rogue. We already talked about that. They refer to these zombie dudes as kurokos, and they have knives now. I don't know.
They're kind of ninja-like.
Yeah. All dressed in black to be scary and intimidating.
Like crawling along the ceiling and the walls.
That's
the vampire-y zombie.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm super excited for it now.
I'm so stoked. Especially since you hadn't seen the teaser either. And, oh man.
Yeah,
there's some cool moves. I'm telling you,
good.
Hanso, he is great with action.
Apparently, so is Park Seo-joon.
Like, yeah. I don't know if there's any... Okay, there's one... Oh, what is it called? Concrete City, I think. And it's a movie with him and Park Bo-young.
Oh.
On Viki. I have not watched it, but that's more apocalyptic.
Okay.
I really want to watch it. So I'm not surprised for him to be actiony. But Hanso, he, again, the first thing I saw her in was My Name, and it's all action.
Yeah.
And it's so good. So clearly she's very
talented in
that area.
Yeah.
But it looks so good.
It does. I'm super excited to watch it. And I'm super excited that we're going to be chilling on the night that it comes out. Because that's all we're going to...
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
That's all we're going to want to do is watch that show. But
I feel like it's not going to be as heavy as season 1 because we're not in
a cultural context.
In a cultural context, right? We're not having the heaviness and the weight and the gravity of that situation of everything that is
Japanese occupied
happening
Korea.
With, you know, you do what I say or you die.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the heaviness of that isn't going to be...
It's still there, but it's in a
as
fantastical
severe. Right.
context.
It's not in this is what reality actually... Like, this actually happened.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it'll be quite as...
I'm interested how well they're able to marry the two concepts. Because those are very opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be interesting to see. I mean, it's not uncommon for... like Tale of the Nine-Tailed or Goblin or, you know, some of these other shows to do the historical thing. But it's definitely in a not living in one.
Not having an entire season dedicated to one.
Well, I guess Tale of the Nine-Tailed did that. I haven't seen the new one.
Yes, but they go back in time.
Right, they start in the modern and go backward to do like an origin story. They don't propel it forward 100 years.
Not really an origin story.
Oh my
but
gosh.
It's... You will like it, I promise.
I don't know that I can watch it anywhere.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and it should be on Viki as well.
Oh, it's on Viki? Okay, well,
I'll double check.
Log into your Viki. Well, people. Thanks for joining us for this surprise season. We have been sitting
so
on
exciting.
this secret since February.
I think December, January, when this show dropped, we were like...
We knew we wanted to do it.
We want to cover this.
But this was originally going to be our season 2. We paused and said, this is a little serious for our second season.
Pretty heavy.
Let's sidestep to Goblin, which wasn't much better. It was better, but...
It was so much better.
It was still a little traumatic for me.
You're right.
That being said, we did this special release because we'd already done so much of the work. We really enjoyed the show.
It's so well done, and the story is amazing.
And as soon as we found out that there was going to be a season 2, we were like, here's our
hurry up.
plan. We're going to drop this thing, and then we're going to start to review season 2. So make sure that you stick around.
We're so excited.
We are. We're going to...
I'm dancing in my chair.
be releasing... GyeongSeong Creature on Tuesdays and My Ideas Gangnam Beauty on Thursdays. So a little bit of something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you stick with us. We're super excited. And thanks for being here along on the journey with us.
We are having so much fun.
We are in our
just
exhausted stupor. maybe
that's
just me.
All
right, well, we will catch you guys next time. Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at The KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on The KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time.